back answering questions about VR, but this time I'm feeling really inspired because I got a chance to sit down with some VR hobbyist futurists at Adobe. We got talking about the long tail of VR. So this week's question is, what does VR look like in 10 to 15 years? Answer right after this intro. I'm going to answer is not, theoretical or like what it's going to do to humankind. What I'm going to talk about is like the trends that I see at specific conferences, at meetup groups, and just overall where the hardware direction is going and how that might play out in long tail. And the first thing I think about when I think about, 10, 15 years down the line is I always tell people that you've got a study, you've got a home studio, a home office, a man cave. 10, 15 years time, don't be surprised if you've got a specific area of your house marked off, or maybe even a special room, right? If you're on some of these forums like I am, you've seen people with their home Elite Dangerous setup or their Forza shifting sort of environment that they've built in quarantine just to get full immersion. And that full immersion also leads to sort of tetherless wireless controllers. People really hate the tug of the headset. And being reminded that, they've got to watch out for this thing, or not pulling their machine out, or like, having extra jerry-rig things on the ceiling so that the cord is not getting in the way. And the Oculus Quest is kind of the first step to that. The Go is kind of in that, and some of the early Samsung Gear stuff. But think about where your cell phone was, with the flip phone, and now what like Samsung kind of flip thing can do, or like the Pixel 3 or the iPhone X can do. That technological advancement is going to be applied to VR for sure. So right now with the Quest, you might not do the same thing as you could when you were, tethered to your machine, but it's only going to get better. And similarly with the Quest is a really good innovator. You're going to have kind of this VR AR crossbreed sort of thing, right? Like there's no reason your VR device can also be an AR device. You see these with a lot of them having cameras. The Quest specifically, the Quest is an augmented reality device. I learned this recently too. But specifically what it also does is it has like an environment to where you can, if you're getting too close to something, it dissolves to real life. So you can say, oh, I'm getting a little bit close to that table or to that dresser. Controllers might be a thing of the past, right? Controllers are very limiting with this, right? I'm doing air quotes right now, but imagine if I had real gloves, or I can control things with my hand. That changes the game on creating in VR and tracking and emoting in VR. Plus, controllers are kind of cumbersome, right? They kind of take you out of it a little bit. Controllers, hands, gloves, haptics will be a real thing, but like imagine a haptic glove. It might be able to kind of give you some resistance to things that you grab, right? It might be able to emulate a controller or a knob or a baseball or an apple or something like that. Another reason why tetherless and haptics and the VR AR crossbreed matters is because you want VR to be portable, right? I specifically moved my VR setup from my desktop to my laptop because I didn't want to be confined to a space, right? I didn't want to, it's like I played the piano as a kid. It sucked because I always had to go back to the same place to play the piano. I was super jealous of like the kids who play trumpet or guitar because they could take it outside and like be at the beach or do whatever, but me, I was specifically stuck here. The same thing applies to VR. You want to be able to take VR outside or to a coffee shop or to, let your friends view it and play with it, but you don't want to have to carry a gorilla case full of gear to do so. Headset fatigue is also a real thing. I tend to think that like these things will get tighter, snugger, but also lighter. The Vive is just awful because the strap is kind of loose. It's not, you can't really do esports in it, right? It'll swing right off your face. PSVR has the best headset. And to what I see, the Oculus Rift S, it's taking the same approach where it's like, it's putting the ring around you and then you set the headset over you. I really like how that feels, and you adjust the size to your face. And that helps a lot of people with glasses make sure that they're included in the VR world as well. Like I mentioned esports before, like exercise in VR is a real thing. You're not just sitting sedentary playing a game. Even if you're in an app sort of like this, you're moving around, you're tracking. So if you're doing something or playing a game and you're exercising reluctantly, as I like to call it, but people will start to go into VR to do these experiences, to do jobs in VR, to get a workout in VR, to play multiplayer games that kind of get the calories burning in VR. Exercise in VR is going to be a pretty big thing, in addition to esports in VR, which kind of goes hand in hand. Video games, esports are taking off in a big way. I see VR esports doing the same thing. You think you're pretty good with that Desert Eagle and Counter-Strike? Okay, let's give you a real Desert Eagle and see if your aim holds up. If you've played any of those first-person shooters like Onward, or you've hopped into a mech in Vox Machina, you know how realistic those environments can be and how competitive those games can also be. And you're making use of your full body. You're not sitting behind a desk. You've actually cordoned off space. Like, people in Echo Arena are actually crawling on the floor. So VR esports I see as taking like a huge leap forward pretty quickly. But social apps and all these other things that people do on their phone will have like a slow migration, right? Why would I hop into VR to do something that I can quickly do on my phone? I think people are going to be reluctant to hop in there, mostly because you can't get the computer desktop experience in VR yet. Maybe haptic glove controllers will change that. But think about it, right? Like, you can access Facebook on your phone as well as your laptop. Why do you go to one place versus the other? Convenience, personal preference. You're just in it, right? So you don't want to have to hop out of VR to use any of these apps or experiences. But that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be, gung-ho about porting their experience over to it. So some of the more social stuff, a lot to do with the digital divide and like the economics of using VR. It's not really ready for mass consumption cost-wise and hardware-wise yet, but it's getting there. But these are just my thoughts. Let me know if you think I'm an idiot, but you should bookmark this. You should definitely bookmark this video so you can shove it back in my face and tell me how much of a prophet I am or how stupid I sound in 10 years' time. But what you should also do is subscribe to the video, and just want a friendly reminder that we do have a Discord. So you can continue the conversation up there, or you can make sure to comment below. But, guys, I'm loving the feedback so far. And thank you so much for the support. Like, subscribe, do all the things. And as usual, thanks for watching. Peace.